time to break down the second half of OU's football schedule. While most people would tell you that Nebraska is the clear-cut choice to win the Big 12 North, those same people would tell you that Missouri is the clear-cut choice to finish second. And although the Sooners dodged Nebraska on the regular season schedule, they can't dodge Mizzou, and they cannot dodge a trip to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers in late October. And if weather becomes a factor, then watch out. But first, the OU defense, they're going to have a lot to deal with anyway with Missouri's offense. Blaine Gabbert returns at quarterback for the Tigers. He threw for nearly 3,600 yards a year ago and only 9 interceptions. The Tigers also returned a pretty good running back in Derek Washington, but the Tigers will not have Denario Alexander, who last season led the nation in receiving yardage. So that's a major loss there, but Missouri does return the bulk of their offensive line. So the OU defense, it'll be time to put up against a good Missouri offense on the road. Defensively, even though the Tigers returned most of their players, this was a Mizzou defense, especially against the pass last year, that was pathetic. 105th in the country out of 120 teams in pass defense. So Landry Jones should be able to light it up. As if Missouri's pass defense wasn't something to be concerned about, how about losing the heart and soul of that D in Sean Witherspoon, the linebacker? Now he's playing for the Atlanta Falcons. He was a first-round draft pick. Aldon Smith, though, does return for Missouri as a defensive end. He was an outstanding pass rusher as a freshman last year, so he's back. So for the OU tackles and tight ends, if they can just contain Aldon Smith, and if Landry Jones stays away from major mistakes, it won't be easy, but I do give Oklahoma a 62% chance of getting out of Columbia with the win. And remember, Bob Stoops, he is 7-0 lifetime against Missouri. This will probably be the last time you see the Sooners and Buffaloes play each other in football for a very long time, as it looks like next year Colorado will be headed to the Pac-12. That's the new name for the Pac-10. The Buffaloes last year, well, can't really say much about them. They only won 3 games. Why were they so bad? Well, several reasons when you go 3-9 why you're bad, but the big reason, I think, was the fact that they couldn't protect the quarterback. They gave up over 45 sacks a year ago. It didn't matter if Cody Hawkins or if Tyler Henson was quarterback in the Buffaloes. It didn't matter. That offense wasn't going anywhere. Offensively, they do have a couple of nice linemen, including Nate Solder, who is an all Big 12 selection entering 2010, but really as a unit, not cohesive at all. The Buffaloes, as far as running the ball, well, it wasn't much better than the passing game, as Colorado last year averaged about 80 yards a game. That won't get it done. They do have good news, though, on offense with a transfer coming in from Michigan at wideout. He's expected to be the Big 12's newcomer of the year in Clemens. Defensively, Colorado's not bad, but really, to tell you the truth, we don't know their potential because they're on the field too dang much because the offense can't do much. Oklahoma at home, I'd say this is an 88% chance that they win this ball game. Colorado, simply put, was bad last year, and this could very well be Dan Hawkins' last year coaching the Buffaloes. I expect Oklahoma to steamroll past the Buffaloes. It would be a surprise if Oklahoma wasn't favored to win at Texas A&M come early November, but it would be a surprise if Oklahoma is able to do to A&M what they did last year to the Aggies, and that is put 65 points on the board and limit the Aggies to 10. This year's game is in College Station. A&M is projected to be better, especially offensively, with Gerard Jackson, the 2010 Big 12 preseason Offensive Player of the Year at the helm. He will also have the luxury of throwing to Jeff Fuller, who's an all-conference selection at receiver. A&M features a good running game, and most of their offensive unit returns. You add the fact that this game is going to be in College Station in a very loud environment, and I think for Oklahoma, this might be their toughest road game of the year. Defensively, A&M last year was simply put the wrecked crew, gave up a ton of yardage and a ton of points. They do, however, have a new defensive coordinator, and they will also be running a 3-4 defensive alignment. That should be pretty good for Von Miller, who is a co-defensive player of the year preseason-wise in the Big 12. He shares that title with Jared Crick of Nebraska. Miller is an outstanding pass rusher, terrific athlete. Oklahoma will have to be aware of him at all times. Oklahoma has done very well historically against the Aggies. It doesn't matter if R.C. Slocum, Dennis Francione, or their current coach Mike Sherman at the helm. Bob Stoops has had a lot of success against A&M no matter where they play. He's only lost once to the Aggies. I would expect this game to be high scoring, but Oklahoma at this point of the year really needing a win to remain in Big 12 and possible national championship contention should get a victory, although it won't be easy. Home sweet home. That's been the story in this rivalry between the Red Raiders and the Sooners for the last 6 seasons. It's been since 2003 that the road team has won in this series, and that was back when Oklahoma was #1 and they went to Lubbock and beat Texas Tech, but that was 7 years ago. Thankfully for the Sooners, this year's game is in Norman, and I'm sure the Sooners have not forgotten last year's embarrassing loss to Texas Tech. Remember, Texas Tech no longer has Mike Leach at the helm. It's going to be a new offense. Tommy Tuberville now takes over as head coach, taking over what I thought was one of the best runs Texas Tech has ever had. Now Tuberville's planning on changing the offense. They're going to run the ball a little bit more. He does return skilled players like Sheffield or Potts at quarterback, whoever he decides to go with. And also, he'll have back Alex Torres at a wideout and Baron Batch running the ball. But remember, Texas Tech is going to have a new offensive line as well. So it's going to be a transition period, I think, this year for the Red Raiders. Defensively, it's also going to be a transition because 4 of their front 7 from a year ago has gone, and those 4 players contributed to most of Texas Tech's quarterback sacks last season. Tech was the best team in the Big 12 overall in getting to the quarterback, but most of that production has left. Oklahoma at home, well, nobody beats Oklahoma at home. Longest nation winning streak at home entering 2010. It's at 30. And seeing how this will be the last home game of the season for Oklahoma, it should be at 36 games that the streak is extended to Oklahoma to get revenge on Texas Tech. Well, it doesn't matter where Oklahoma plays Baylor. They can play them in Waco, they can play them in Norman, they can play them in my front yard. It doesn't matter. Oklahoma just doesn't lose to Baylor, and they're not going to lose to them this season. Although for Baylor, it's nice that they get Robert Griffin back. They're all-everything quarterback who gave up track to fully focus on football. You might remember last season, Griffin missed most of the season because of the ACL injury, and Baylor was never the same again. The Bears have never gone to a bowl game since joining the Big 12 Conference. That's 14 years now of being without a bowl. So is Baylor going to go to a bowl game this year? Of course not. But Robert Griffin is a player that you have to watch if you're the Oklahoma defense because he reminds you a little bit of Vince Young. He's pretty elusive, hard to bring down, and of course the guy can throw. Unfortunately for Baylor, he's all they have. And you can't win a football game with just one player. Oklahoma has a much better team, and even though the game's in Waco, I would not expect the crowd to be a factor at all. In fact, it's possible that there are going to be more Oklahoma fans at this game than Baylor fans. At this point in the season, it will be over for Baylor, so their fans might be saying, to heck with it, let's get on with basketball season. 95% chance that Oklahoma gets out of Waco with a victory, and then it's on to Bedlam. Should Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State this year? Sure. Doesn't mean that they will. Remember, the game is in Stillwater, and for OSU, this is their version of Oklahoma, Texas. This is their biggest game of the year, and seeing how the game is in Stillwater, Oklahoma better be ready for Bedlam. I know OSU will be. The Cowboys lost a lot from last year's team, especially on the offensive line, including Russell Okung, a first-round draft pick. Also gone, one of the best quarterbacks they've ever had in Zach Robinson. Also gone is Dez Bryant, and gone is Keith Toston, their All-Big 12 running back. Good news, though, they get Kendall Hunter back, who was their All-Big 12 running back 2 years ago, but last year was very limited because of the ankle. He's expected to be 100% this year. Still, though, it's going to be a new Oklahoma State offense, not so much technique-wise, but definitely personnel-wise, as Brandon Wheaton, now the quarterback for the Cowboys. We saw what he could do against Colorado. Not too bad of a job, but he has to do that the whole year for OSU to be successful. Defensively, Oklahoma State improved last year with Bill Young as defensive coordinator. They went from being one of the worst defenses in the country to making it into the top 30 in total defense. So they have gotten better, but they also lost a lot from the 2009 squad, including Andre Sexton. Because it's Bedlam, I think this will be a ball game for a half. But Oklahoma, too much talent, too much at stake in this game. 70% chance that Oklahoma gets out of Stillwater with the win. Oklahoma has won the last 7 Bedlam showdowns, but the last 3 in Stillwater have been pretty competitive, including the 2008 game where Oklahoma had to do everything possible to finally get away from Oklahoma State in that 61-41 track meet 2 years ago. Oklahoma should win Bedlam and make it 8 straight.